And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions on the latest games releasing. Well, today we're talking about Agony. This Kickstarter game has been highly anticipated from both its community that has cropped up around it and just gaming at large thanks to its really intense and gruesome vibe. Now, does it hold up as a game once you get past the visuals? Well, I got my hands on the game early, and I can say yes and no. Mostly no. I mean, from a horror aspect, yeah. From a gameplay aspect, not so much. Agony follows the story of a seemingly random, tormented soul who is dropped right into hell. You don't have any of your memories and you're a martyr. You're just a sad, decrepit, weak soul destined to shamble around for eternity. Basically, you start out as kind of the background fodder you would run past in other games with hell sequences, which is interesting. The only thing here is that you know to pursue this red goddess who, in this lore, is like one of the leaders or creators of this hell, and to progress through this really terrible, awful world, you actually have the ability to possess other beings. Now, I'm gonna say what I've captured here is the start of the game to mostly avoid spoilers, but I just wanna point out that I have to edit and cut around a lot because the game is extremely gory and there's like lots of nudity and boobs everywhere, so we didn't wanna get copyright flagged and have the video taken down. And for those of you that are wondering just how gross and edgy the game is, there was supposed to be a patch that was going to make the game even worse, to make it adults only. There's been some controversy, that patch isn't coming out. But still, if you're looking for a gross, gory, nasty game, I think you're still gonna get plenty of that here. But anyway, what is the game exactly? It's like a spooky game that is pretty much linear, but with some fairly large size environments to get lost in. And basically, you progress through environments finding keys or items to activate certain things or certain areas, and solve some fairly interesting puzzles along the way. You're also gonna need to possess other martyrs or creatures to accomplish certain tasks, but mostly really just to save your soul from being lost. Because in this game, death is a regular occurrence, and then you have a limited time to float around as a ghost to try to inhabit another body before time runs out. And it works fine. I think this mechanic did have more potential to be used for actual gameplay purposes other than death, but it doesn't really go much further than that, except for a couple of occasions, at least for me. The game is difficult because you are limited as a character in most possessions, environments are very dark and often hard to see, and the game doesn't give you much guidance other than an extremely simple HUD and a limited pathfinding mechanic. Now, I've seen some people criticize that as a core issue with the game's very design, but I didn't mind it much. It was frustrating at first. The whole opening of the game is kind of frustrating until it finds its footing, but I think what you have here is just a challenging game that doesn't hold your hand, and some people really want that. Where it does get iffy for me is the enemies and stuff, because yeah, progressing through and hiding from scary enemies is just the name of the game here, and it generally feels similar to something like Amnesia or Outlast, so take that as you will. I was a little underwhelmed. The game goes for a feeling of like helplessness and despair, and it certainly gives you that. The enemies can easily see you, and there's not too much rhyme or reason to them really, other than just you creeping around, hiding in hidey holes, and a nice ability to like hold your breath as they walk by so they don't hear you. It's not bad, I just didn't find it very fun. It gets better once you start possessing lesser demons, because then you can move a bit faster and you can kill some stuff, but part of my brain had already checked out a bit. Between uneven checkpoints and the fact that there's just not much to do really, and the stealth just kind of working only when it wants to me feels like it was like concept first, gameplay design second. I was hoping for something more than just a dull version of Outlast, but the game to me makes no attempts to do anything fun or really just engage me as a player. It sounds weird and counterproductive to say this, but I'd almost rather just be able to walk around and experience the weird grossness of everything and get spooked, instead of just doing boring basic video game chores. But if you are looking for progression elements, you can find these forbidden fruits that are literally just gross apples with actual vaginas on them that give you points in which you can dump into getting better at like stealth or possession or stuff. Now, as much as I didn't find the gameplay too compelling, where I did find value was just in the look of the game itself and the very enemies that you have to hide from. Almost every environment design and enemy concept here is just insane and kind of awesome and out of this world. I really can't say enough good about all that. The lip syncing for the NPCs is sometimes kind of off, but every other creature design looks really damn great. A lot of them have weird boobs and vaginas, like that seems to be what they keep falling back on, but there are also scary baby things and things made out of limbs, and they're all grossly designed and lit and really fit in with the environment. It especially works when you're in the dark and you just catch the silhouette of an enemy. This is where the game's graphical engine really works and kind of helps that scare factor, which is there. The game is tense and stressful the entire time, and I think they succeed in their mission here. You might not like the visual stuff though. It's obnoxiously edgy, I will say that. I don't mind it, I think it's interesting, it's different, but I think it might be too much for some folks, so I'm just putting it out there. But the environments themselves are the same way. They're easy to get lost in, and some may find that frustrating, but I think that's a part of the feeling the developers were trying to convey. Whether you're lost or not though, they're kind of awesome to check out. They're dark, they're drippy, they're creepy, they're bloody, and generally unsettling. And then there are some areas that are more brightly lit and more trippy and confusing. And the game just pulls a lot of visual tricks overall everywhere to spook you and keep you on your toes. I will say, I was pretty impressed. I saw like a new creepy thing in a hallway, like jump scare, after backtracking through this hallway for like the third time, and there was still that new scare. And like I said, the game does provide that in spades. The jump scares aren't the scariest you've ever seen, but they work in combination with just always being stressed and unsettled while playing, and I think the sound design is what really does it. The voices kind of going everywhere in your head, and screams in the distance, and just weird gross sounds. That stuff works. All that combined is where I do think the game is kind of worth experiencing. If you're into this stuff, if you're into horror. The general gameplay, like I said, kind of bored me, but experiencing the game itself is still worth a nice ride for horror fans. This shit is freaky and kind of well realized. The story doesn't give you much, but it's interesting enough, and there's a lot of creepy voiceover and old pages to find and read along the way if you want to go deeper. Don't expect like actual Dante's Inferno or really much of a deep story at all, but expect to consistently see some new stuff here and there. There are even tongue-in-cheek dialogue moments that I didn't expect. The creativity is on display here, whether you like that creativity or not, but I think if that's what you are coming in for, you'll be somewhat satisfied. I did experience a few glitches here and there, nothing game-breaking, but otherwise the game ran fairly decent for me. I've seen others complaining, but I had no issue on my end, really. So I'll say, overall, the game is alright. It's not a full-priced game, so if the aesthetic and the scares and the horror aspect interests you, I'd say give it a shot, just don't expect the most fun or amazing gameplay. But of course, that's how a Before You Buy works. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion thrown in, so now I definitely want to hear yours down in the comments. There was a lot of anticipation on Agony, and right now it seems like both critical reviews and user reviews are pretty divided, so I want to know how you guys are feeling on this. We could talk about it down in the comments, but also consider going by discord.gg/gameranx, stopping in over there and talking to us. There's plenty of channels where you can find whatever you want to talk about with us. But of course, like I always say, if you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button does help us out. We do really appreciate it, and if you are new, you should subscribe because we put out stuff like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.